Now, speaking of fame and money, our friend Dave Chappelle infamously walked away from a lot of money, $50 million at the height of his fame. Now, you and other cast members, people working on Chappelle Show, y'all were still involved in the show. Was it ever weird at that point when the Chappelle Show seemed to be ending spectacularly, but y'all as people working on the show weren't quite sure what the direction was?
Well, it ain't never seemed to be ending. It just ended, nigga. Right. That nigga was a werewolf one day and that nigga was in Africa the next day, son. But it was so funny, son. I remember Charlie was Frankenstein, I was the mummy, and Dave was a werewolf, right? And I knew I could feel something was strange, nigga. Because that nigga, he was like this. And he said, I guess 50 million ain't enough. And I was like, two? Right. I was like, who? And it was like, and when he left the show, it was like, I'm real shit, I was kind of happy when he left the show. And the reason why I say that, because when we were doing Chappelle Show, it wasn't a big money gig for us. For me, it wasn't a big money. For Charlie, it wasn't a big money gig for Bill Burr, because it didn't pop yet where we could use it to, it was still, it was simmering. So, and I came up with the idea, I was like, we got to get some money. I came up with the idea of doing this tour called the I'm Rich Bitch Tour, right? I was like, yo, we can't.
I saw them shows too.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of shows.
I'm like, man, we got to figure out something. Charlie Murphy never told a joke in his life at the time. And Bill Burr, and I've said this on different podcasts, Bill Burr was a bubbling comedian. He was probably doing B comedy room, but everybody knew certain talent you just see, you could just know it's only a matter of time. You could tell that. But still, he wasn't as recognizable from the show as me and Charlie. So I had to bully Charlie into going to do stand-up, because Charlie we would roast, me and him, we would go so hard. And I'd be like, yeah, nigga, you tough in your movies and shit. I say, but let a microphone come in this motherfucker. You ought to be like a dog with his tail in his ass and walk away. I used to always fucking dog him. And finally I took him to an open mic one time. We started the I'm Rich Bitch Tour, and we did that for like a year and a half. But the time that we did it was when Dave went away. So now it's like he was, because we didn't know if he was gonna come back. But he was like, oh, all right, take your time, nigga. We gonna go get this money. And then we found out that he never was gonna come back. And it was a tough situation because Comedy Central had an archive of sketches that they had already shot. It was a lost episodes. And
musical guests. I was one of the musical guests of the lost episode from something that we had put out. Yeah.
And it was a interesting situation, because you have Comedy Central on one end. It's like, all right, we did pay for these. We can't just not do it. And then you had on the other end is, what do you do? And that was a tough decision for me and Charlie to host the lost episode, because nobody had walked through that curtain. It was his show. Nobody had walked through that curtain. You know what I'm saying? At the time, he hadn't really communicated his thoughts on what he wanted to do. Like, if a nigga would have called me and said, yo, son, don't do it, I wouldn't have fucked with it, But also, it was an opportunity for me, because I still was getting a name for myself. And it was another opportunity for people to continue to see what I bring to comedy. And I think that me and Charlie did it in the most tasteful way that we could do it. When Charlie was like, he said, man, we didn't want to come out here. I said, fuck that, speak to yourself, nigga. I need as much camera time as I can get. Right. It was like, some people feels like that lost episodes kind of sold the audience short. But what do you do but try to do something creative so people can continue to see the work?
Yeah, man. And shout out to Charlie Murphy. Rest in peace. That was a huge loss for the comedy community, huge loss for Black people, just for the world of entertainment in general. And obviously you had to get close to Charlie at that time. And he became family. Was he just such a natural storyteller on set? Because this is the first time I'm hearing. I never even realized that Charlie wasn't doing stand up, but that makes sense. First time I seen Charlie was in them old videos, K9 Posse videos, and then you see him in CB4. He's such a comedic presence in CB4 and other things he's doing on the Chappelle Show. You would just naturally assume he'd be good on stand up, but Tell us about the legacy of Charlie Murphy and how that have inspired you.
Well, it was, man, it was my brother, man. Like, you know, my father used to say a phrase about certain people, right? When he really connected with them. And you know how when an old head say, man, that's a good nigga. And it's not, like, white people, don't take it wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's a sense of integrity. It's a lot of stuff that goes there. And he was a good nigga, man. That was my nigga. He was
bond.
A solid friend. He was loyal as hell. If he rocked with you, he would rock with you. He had integrity. And he just was a great guy to be around. You know? And like you said about the stories, like Charlie would sit around, and that's how the Prince and the Rick James sketch happened, because he would sit around and just tell us stories. And he would tell a story with such detail that you just started writing. In your mind, you just started writing. You was like, that was it, man. He was a good friend. But I'm gonna tell you, man, that motherfucker was a roast master, son, that never stopped. These I remember talking about my beef. They be talking about my beef that I be having with people. Man, me and Charlie Murphy, if you go to his Instagram right now, right? Nigga, literally, it's like 8 pages of just memes directed at me. Like no break, back to back to back, man.
I remember Charlie Murphy went on, he was in the Mo Better Blues, and he told Spike Lee, how about I kick you in your flat back and watch you grow a butt?
Yo, you know what? I'm pretty sure that was an improv.
That was improv.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was really good at that. But he just was a really good dude, man. Very humble. When I first met him, I knew him the same way you knew him from when he was rapping and all them other stuff. And then the motherfucker just come off like a real gangster. His look just looks like that. But dude had one of the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever met in my life, man. Just a great guy.
Word up.
What we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party. When opportunity knocking, then young nigga move that door. Whoa, get your foot stuck, get it, call me young, go get it. They can't fuck with it, might as well roll with it.